Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 19th episode of Add Water and Stir. I am adoptive Black mom, co-host for this fantastic podcast, joined by my fellow co-host Mimi from the blog Complicated Melody. What's going on?
Hey everybody. Welcome back. It's been a minute since we've been on here. It's been a month. That is way too long.
Months fly by. They really, really do. And so, yeah, we had a little schedule hoo-ha. Things were going on in our lives over the last couple of weeks, so we decided to kind of skip a week, and so we're back now, ready to tackle some interesting topics. But in the meantime, so it has been a month since we were last on air. So what's been going on this last month, Mimi?
Good things have been going on. I think last time we talked, we had just started with the babysitter. So we've been doing the babysitter thing. We have scheduled date nights on Monday. So I'm
Ooh.
excited. That's interesting. That's the first thing I talk about. But yes, I'm happy. We have our dating. My husband and I are dating. So that is very nice. And Nana really likes the babysitter. So that's
Nice.
good.
Yeah.
And let's see. We're going to see Frozen tomorrow. Frozen on ice.
Nice. Oh.
And Nana is very excited, and she's going with one of her, who she calls her best friend. And I was talking to the mother, and we were getting everything together, and she said, "Oh, I'm going to buy her daughter, something to wear." And I was like, I'm so glad she said something because that would have never occurred to me. When I was growing up, when we got to go to something like this, we were just happy to be there. We didn't think about, we didn't even look at snacks, all those little flashy toys and everything. We just happy to be there. Maybe my mother might have gotten some Price Chopper, like the candy bars for Price Choppers out there. But other than that, just happy to be there. But I went ahead and ordered Nana a dress, so she
Okay.
has her little. I still have some problems with this.
Problem.
I really don't want a Elsa face on her dress. I just, I,
Dare we say what you really don't want on her dress?
I prefer not to have her walking around thinking that little white girls are the only girls that can be princesses.
Okay.
So I'm just really not that enthused about Elsa or Sarah or Annabelle or whoever these children are, and her, being like that's her favorite dress. I just have a problem with that. But that is the only dress I could find within a short time frame that fit her. So,
So we're still working on that Princess Tiana carefree black girl then.
uh, Princess Tiana wasn't even carefree because she's the only princess that had a job. So, you know,
And she was a frog for most of the
she
movie.
was. So maybe we need to work on that. Maybe we need to come up with a carefree princess that just gets to skip around the forest all day. You know.
All right.
So those are the main things going on with this.
Okay. Good
What
deal.
about you? What's going on with you and Hope? You guys have been traveling internationally. You putting
Yes.
stamps in the passport and
Got a
everything.
stamp and the passport. We went to Montreal a couple of weeks ago for spring break. It is still cold and snowing. And I am not accustomed, just for the record, of going to cold climes for spring break.
I'm not
But
accustomed.
however, these are, the things that we do for the young ones. So, but yeah, we went to Quebec province so that she could practice her French, and we had a good time. We stayed in a really nice hotel, and she was like, "This is the nicest hotel," and and like room service is still like a really really big cool thing. We got room service one night, and
Wait a minute. Room service is a big thing.
it's a big thing, but it's funny. But much like you were talking about how, oh, you're going to dress up to go to Frozen on Ice. Well, our parallel is like we go somewhere and then there's a gift shop. And so there's just an expectation that as soon as we cross the threshold, that like she gonna get something.
And
Like,
it's like, where did this expectation come from?
right. And I like browsing in gift shops, but again, like I come from the school like that you came from. Don't touch nothing and no, you're not getting anything. And so we had a moment where, well, while we were traveling, where it was like, well, you know, well, then why would we go to the gift shop? And I was like, well, I don't really need to go to the gift shop, but you seem to want to go to the gift shop. But then you seem to think that crossing the threshold to said gift shop means that you're getting stuff. So we had this whole crazy, like, kind of moment of, I've been really grappling with the fact that she has become entitled.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're wrestling with that. So later on in our spring break trip, we came back and my sister got married, and so we were down in near Virginia Beach, and we went to Jamestown historic site, you know, the home of America and all that stuff. And I made sure that she brought her wallet, and I said, I'm gonna sit on this bench over here while you hit the gift shop. And so
Well, did she come out empty-handed that time?
well, she came out the first time and was like, "Ugh, there's nothing that I can afford at the gift shop." Ah. And like, then she's like, well, I would have bought you. Yeah.
Oh, she tried to get you into it. Go ahead, Hope.
I would have bought you this, you know, Jamestown wooden etched pen or whatever. And I was like, I don't need no dang wooden etched pen. And I really don't need to give you money to buy me a pen. Like, so she ended up spending her little money buying overpriced gummy bears.
In the gift shop.
And then she went back, and when I was like, "You're just gonna buy, you can buy," we could have stopped at the 7-Eleven. She goes back and she go buys an Arrowhead, and so then she's mad at me because I was like, "Well, God, we're gonna stop at Grandma and Grandpa's. This is like right down the road from where Grandma grew up. We got tons of Arrowheads at home because we found them all the time as kids. You mean I spent $3.99 on this Arrowhead, and I could have got one at Grandma's house?" See, that's why we don't need to go to gift shops. So
You have to live and learn. That's how, you know. But ABM, why are you hating on Hope's, love of the gift shops,
I like gift
That's
shops.
part of her vacation experience.
I like gift shops and I like kitsch, but every single place that we go to does not mean that we have to buy something. So, and I think that the last place where we had kind of had our headbutt was we went to this archaeology museum. And they had this great exhibit on Greek antiquities, which I just love that kind of stuff. And she ran through the museum, and I took my sweet time, so she had to wait. So I think that when we went to the gift shop, then she was
I
like,
can
well,
just imagine y'all at these events.
well, the best part of these experiences, though, is that no one ever, ever, ever in a million years like questions that we are mother and daughter because our bickering is at level 10. Like we are like the perfect mom, young teen, tween, bicker monster, and I like the fact that people are amused by our bickering and that we somehow are like exceptionally normal.
Yes, very, very normal.
So
That's really cute.
yeah, so that's kind of what we've been up to the last couple of weeks and just kind of getting back into regulated stuff.
See, that's hmm, I think it's exceptional that you can take her on these wonderful trips for spring break, So that'll be her experience.
Yeah,
Our spring break was at the house.
hey,
So getting to go to Quebec and all these other trips, I think that's awesome. And it's
yeah,
interesting because I know Nana is going to have those same
yeah.
type of experiences.
It was great kind of traveling with her and seeing the world through her eyes, and apparently she really liked it because she has worn her what is it, je t'aime, or whatever, I love Montreal t-shirt like at least 7 times, and we only been back like 2 weeks. She wears it like we wash it and she puts it back on. We wash it and she puts it back on. And so, it's cute. So we're really blessed and fortunate to be able to do that, and it's definitely reminding me why I wanted to be a mom. So it's cool.
Oh, that's so cute.
When she's not getting on my nerves, and I want to put her on the patio. So,
I think that happens to all of us too.
but
So
yeah, it seems to also be normal. So anyway, so shall we get into our topic for the evening?
yes, let's get into it.
So tonight we are going to tackle a couple of topics that are pretty sensitive and ouchy, maybe in the adoption community. We're going to talk about rehoming. We're going to talk about this notion of disruption and disillusion. And so we've got some great articles that we'll talk about. But in terms of vocabulary, some of the things that I noted as we were kind of doing prep for this show. So disruption happens prior to an adoption being finalized. Disillusion is what happens after the adoption when it doesn't work out, after it's final. And then kind of rehoming is kind of this not legal
Mm-hmm.
kind of trading. It almost feels like a trading of kids, and actually there's even been some judgments calling it trafficking in some jurisdictions. And so I kind of been kicking this idea of talking about this for a couple of weeks because we just, someone kind of in my circle who was just had a placement, I guess, last fall after a very extended visitation kind of schedule of going back and forth with her prospective daughter. They had a disruption after about 2.5 months, and I chatted with her about it afterwards, and it was just really hard about kind of, in this process, you kind of find out where your limits are. And, we were talking about it, and I was just like, gosh, I'm so sorry it didn't work out, and my heart is broken, and how are you doing, and all these kinds of things. And I could tell she was still really very emotional and kind of angry about what she had experienced. And she was just, some of the things that she was like, I can't believe that this happened, and this happened. I mean, how would you react to that? And I was like, man, that was like day 2 for us. Like, I guess my limit is different, but that's not saying that you shouldn't have your limit when you had your limit. But yeah, we dealt with that, and we kind of got through it. And people kind of may feel judgmental, especially in the older kid adoption piece where you can't handle a kid, and even people are like, oh, didn't work, you didn't do what you were supposed to do as a parent, when you may or may not have had all of the support and resources that you needed. So let's get into the disruption and dissolution kind of part. I think that some of the data that we found said that maybe 20 for disruption, 10 to 20% or so of placements maybe disrupt. Only maybe 1 to 5% of adoptions post finalization dissolve. So the disruption piece is a bit higher, but the dissolution piece is pretty low.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think it's a complicated issue, and I think just based on your introduction here, you brought up some of the issues around why disruptions and dissolutions may happen. A lot of times, one, I want to point out, even in that data that you're talking about, and we have the data somewhere. I guess I'll find it and post it. Are you posting it right now? But it did say that there is a higher instance of dissolutions within international adoptions.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't see it in the article, but I would wonder if it was also a higher instance maybe in older child adoptions. I don't know if that's true or not. But when we think about why does it happen, a lot of times it's because people just really aren't trained from the beginning about the real issues that may come along with adopting a child that has gone through emotional or physical trauma. And when you go through the foster care system to adopt a child, they have training, but I'll be honest with you, I don't feel like they're there to inform you, but not in the same sense of I want to make sure you understand everything that you're getting into. I mean, we're going to the class, but I do feel like it's I'm teaching you because I need to teach you this. I'm supposed to teach you this, but not. I really want you to take this to heed. Um, and then when you talk about international adoptions, there is not a lot of regulation around that. So those adoption agencies don't necessarily have to give any type of training about what a parent or parents may be experiencing when they bring a child from overseas. So the first piece of that is a lot of people just are underinformed
Yeah.
about what they may be experiencing.
Yeah.
What do you feel when you went through your process? Do you feel like you had the proper level of education?
Of course not. So we had, I don't know what they call it where you are, but we call it pride classes
It
here.
was pride.
It's the
Hmm.
same, right? They're all pretty much the same. And what is it, like, I don't know, 8 weeks or something like that of
Yep.
a few hours ago of it each week. And, you know, when we kind of got to I guess there's one session that's really kind of devoted to childhood trauma. They show you these videos and they have these different scenarios, and
Hmm.
little Billy or Jane like throw a book at the foster family or whatever it is, and you know, or you might see them pulling up weeds. I think the movie, which was like circa 1978, they showed that
Yes, outdated.
like, little Billy is out in the yard having a fit pulling up weeds. Well, where I'm from, like, yeah, you're gonna be outside pulling up weeds. What's wrong with that? And so
Yeah.
you mean the kid went out and did it on his own? Cool. But 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 it was, I mean, I remember sitting in the class going, this is not enough. And I know that they're like, it might be bad, but no one would tell you what it might be bad.
Looks like, or
Or feels like, or they had a couple of parents come in and talk to us, but it really still wasn't like, they don't want to give you a horror story, but they also, it just wasn't enough.
yeah, and I think maybe I like to read, I like to learn. So I expected to go into these classes like I was going to school. Like, okay, this is going to class, I'm gonna have homework, I need to prepare for the class. And it was just like, hey, show up, you can participate, you might not participate. It just doesn't have the level of rigor I think probably that needs to happen with it. That type of training. So you're gonna get out of it what you feel like you want to get out of it. And I think at that point, people are so hopeful. You just started the process, you just filled out the paperwork, you just got accepted to go to the class. You're just like, I hear everything that you're saying, but I'm still moving forward, and
And I'm gonna be a parent, and that's
yes,
kind of this going through this 8 weeks is more of a barrier to me fulfilling this goal or dream than it is for me to learn something meaningful. And then again, when you add to that the lack of rigor in
hmm
those programs, that really it just really felt like checking a box.
it's compliance. It's compliance based versus us really trying to walk away with a lot of learning and understanding of what you truly could be getting into.
Yeah.
So so then when you compound that with international adoption and agencies where depending on what country people are coming from, the situation on the ground may be different. Some children may be coming from orphanages, some children may be coming from other different situations, and so the experiences that they have could be completely different. And if your agency isn't really stringent on training people ahead of time, again, you're dealing just with the hope of people and the idea that love is going to work everything out.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. A lot of the articles we talked about that. And then when you talk about people turning to rehoming, I feel I don't know how to feel about this because I feel like a lot of these parents, are probably very disenfranchised at that point.
Yeah.
They're like have gone through whatever it is with their child, and they're just at this point hopeless, isolated,
Yeah.
you know, scared,
Yeah.
traumatized also because who knows what's going on in the household. And I think isolation is a big one because not having anybody that you can talk to about it. Um,
Judgment.
yes, the judgment that comes from people saying, well, you asked for this.
Right.
You knew it could happen. They told you, all these things. So, they probably tend to isolate themselves. And maybe not even having understanding or access to services.
Yeah.
So I know if you adopt from foster care, depending on your agency, there are post adoption services, but I just don't know what services are provided for those who adopt internationally. What their agency provides them. So
Right. I mean, I adopted from foster care, but through a private agency, and I'm really fortunate because the reason why I chose the agency is because they continue to offer services and support. Once you're a family of the agency, you're always an agency family, and they're always going to provide some level of contact and support and opportunities to kind of engage, and that was really important to me. But yeah, the rehoming piece was really, I just have, it just kind of hits me in the gut. And a few weeks ago, I guess maybe when I was away on the trip, or maybe shortly, I don't know, somewhere around that time, I guess I was reading some Facebook stuff, which I still kind of um, scan those support groups that for me are not terribly supportive, but it's kind of interesting to kind of just kind of keep a pulse,
on
finger on
what's
the pulse,
going on in the
kind of what's
community,
going
right?
on in the community. And I got a whole bunch of other stuff I want to talk about in future podcasts about.
Okay.
But someone talked about this issue of rehoming and said, oh, well, there's this Facebook group that's dedicated to rehoming. And so I was like, really? Well, let me, go find it. And I saw it, and you just have it's you see children's profiles there, and they're like, their mom and dad are looking to move them along, and it was heartbreaking, to see these profiles, but it also was like heartbreaking to know that these adoptive parents had gotten to this place of saying, this is so not working out. I don't know what else to do other than to get, to remove this child. And rather than putting them back in foster care, just kind of putting their profile up on, Facebook. It just really was painful.
I think it's painful for both sides,
Yeah.
but in any case like that, I would like to err on the side of the child, like what's best for the child. And I think that's the problem in this situation is I don't know if there's a good answer about what's best for the child, right?
Hmm.
When you think about a dissolved adoption, is it best to see how you can place a child in another home so they do have a chance of being in a loving home? You don't want them to stay in a place where they're not wanted
Right.
and where it's not working out. So I really don't know what the best, thing is for them. I hate the idea of someone just being able to walk up and take a child without any oversight, any
Yeah.
checks and balances, or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. There was an article that I'm reading. Oh, it was a Yahoo News article, and it was called, give me a minute here, Giving Away Anatoly Z. And, it was really about this mother deciding she had adopted two children, I think from Russia.
Mhm.
And the article is about her decision, in part to kind of rehome one of the children, and it really kind of paints this picture of how this situation, how this family wasn't working, and how challenging it was, kind of for the rest of the family um, to wrestle with and grapple with the issues that this one child was constantly displaying. And I kind of got the sense from this article that this was just the option of absolute last resort. They had really wrestled with it over time, and it was painful, and it just was hard, and it was really it's you're just at the end of the rope, and
Mm-hmm.
and I said, gosh, maybe it is really better for that this child, Anatoly, was rehomed, so that the rest of so that maybe he could be in a family where he was an only child and could get more attention, and get whatever it was that he was missing and needed, and that this other family could kind of remain intact and actually have an opportunity as an entire unit to flourish, which clearly wasn't happening in the current state. And it just really seems so sad and so desperate.
Right. But I have a question. Like, what type of people are looking for informal ways to adopt children in this way? That to me is a little bit of the strange part to me.
It gives me the
Like,
will.
what? Why would you go through that way when you can go through foster care?
Well,
Which is no cost to you. Is it
yeah.
because you don't wouldn't meet the requirements um, of income, or you wouldn't meet the requirements of the size of your house? I mean, what I'm at that part I'm struggling with. Not
Well,
the people. I have some understanding and empathy for the people who feel like they're at the end of their rope and feel like they are looking for another home for a child. But I don't understand the people who are looking on these groups for a child.
I think that there's probably two camps. One is the nefarious bunch that just scares us and gives us all the willies, that they're just predators, kind of like shopping for kids. Ooh. And then the other is, I think that when I look at some support groups, and I look at some adoption support Facebook pages and stuff, there are really just desperate people who want to be parents no matter what, and not everybody wants to work inside of a regulated system. And I mean, that's just a reality. Not everyone wants to do that, or feels that they need to, or maybe they have fears that I think that there's a lot of fear that prospective parents have about how the process will judge them and whether or not they'll be truly eligible, right? And whether or not that perspective is validated or true or not is certainly one thing, but that may not be their reality. And so, if they're really just afraid of that the system will not accept them, then I could see a population of folks really kind of going the rehoming method, or path. Of course, then they don't even have the perfunctory compliance.
That's the part. I think that's the scary part to me.
Yeah.
I mean, the group of the people who say I don't prefer not to work within the system, but the part that bothers me is then, because you're not working within the system, you're not also getting the system to help you with your child, right? So you're not getting the Medicaid, you're not getting any support, financial support, you're not getting the other things that your child may be entitled to that could help you when you come upon these issues.
Mhm.
I don't know. That's the part that scares me. And I feel like in all the articles I've read, I haven't found any article that talks about a person who wants to take these children into their home and what their motivations are.
Yeah. So there is a document that we have that has the synopsis of state laws regarding the practice of private rehoming. And in the introduction, it really kind of hints at the fact that these kids are already at risk, right? And so the folks that these children that are attempting to be rehomed, in private rehoming systems, I guess, informal systems, seem to be at even greater risk for abuse and psychological
Yes.
damage. So if
Hmm.
that's the case, is that, to me, it says that there are probably more people with really, nefarious intent kind of searching for kids. And we know, I mean, all of us kind of watch the news and we kind of see these things on the news, not necessarily about rehoming, but just kind of, it's the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. I mean, we just, in my county, our public information officer was just arrested, for the police was just arrested yesterday for child pornography. So, these people are out there, and we know that there's no shortage of them, and so, and we know that they also actively use the internet. So, they're. I mean, I hate saying it, but it seems like this is kind of a predator's dream.
It does in the Reuters article. It does say that this is a predator's dream, right? Because exactly everything that you just said, they're already when they're placing these ads on the internet, they're saying that this child has already been exposed to sexual abuse. They're acting out and things like that. So that's exactly the type of child that predators are looking for. So
Yeah. So surprisingly, though, when you look at this document, um, not as many states really have as many laws as you would think, or some are more developed and some aren't. But we'll definitely post that. I'll post it in the chat right now, and we'll certainly include it in the show notes as well. So. But yeah, it's anytime these relationships don't work out, I think is a really um, sad, traumatic thing. And you know, I, I was telling maybe before, you just don't really know where your limit is going to be. This process, I know for myself and Hope, has not always been an easy one. We've kind of seem to be just coming out of another one of our little dark periods of really struggling. But the first few months were really, really challenging for us, and it never occurred to me. I mean, I feel like in retrospect, it didn't feel at the time, it didn't necessarily feel like I had all of the support that I wanted, but certainly I think there must have been enough for us to get through some of the really extraordinarily challenging moments that we endure. But it saddens me that a lot of people don't necessarily have the support that they need even to just get by, and so that's tough.
so do you think they should outlaw rehoming?
I don't
Because
think.
that's where some of the states are going to,
Yeah.
where they're making it you cannot post about children on the internet looking for new adopted placements for them.
I think at the end of the day, yeah, I think it should be outlawed. I mean, I certainly hate the notion of kids going um, either back into foster care, or for some of them going into foster care for the first time, right? Because it's not, certainly older children are older adoptees are more at risk, um, but it doesn't necessarily mean that being adopted at birth is going to resolve all of your issues, right? And I mean, I had someone just this week that was like, "Oh, don't you wish you had gotten someone, a younger kid, like I'm just taking Yappy to puppy school, like I'm gonna take Hope to puppy school." Like,
Right.
no, I mean, it just doesn't work that way. And so,
Hmm.
but the risk seems so great that I'd much rather a child be in a regulated system, even with its imperfections, than to just kind of put an ad on Craigslist. Because
I completely agree with that. Like I said, I feel like we need to start looking at what the source of the issue is. I feel like rehoming is a symptom, right? So it's a cry for help because I don't have what I need to support. Um, but I don't like the idea that you, like you said, an ad on Craigslist is that easy to turn over custody of a child to someone else. And again, like I said, in all these issues, I feel like we should defer to what's best for the child. I don't think it's necessarily best that they go into the foster care system, but at least um, there's some regulation over that. And it's not perfect, but it feels better than just nobody knowing what's happening to these
Right.
children.
I mean, I like I said, I hate comparing. I
Yes.
hate comparing my child to my pet. But I mean, I joke with people that Yappy, people are like, oh, what kind of dog is Yappy? And I'm like, he's my Craigslist special. Like, I didn't like
Hmm.
the people that I bought him in a parking lot from, hello, told me
Right.
he was this kind of dog. It is clear with each passing week that he is not
Not that dog.
you know. And so, but somebody put up an ad on Craigslist. I answered an ad on Craigslist, and it shocks me that we can do that with a human being.
Exactly. And some of the articles, especially the Ruta article, talked about, I mean, parents being so much at the end of the rope. They're like, you can come pick them up today.
Today,
And that is unacceptable. Unacceptable. It's
but
just unacceptable. But
yeah,
I don't have a solution. And I think that's the challenging part for me. I don't That's not the solution to that's not the whole solution to just outlaw this.
yeah,
It
yeah,
has to be one part of a collective solution. Mm,
yeah. I mean, I mean, yeah, it has to be. I mean, I think that there just has to be more support for adoptive parents and adoptees, and because it's not really just about the parent, but clearly there are adoptees at any age in these scenarios that need more support, and maybe the parents know or don't know how to access it, how to tap it, what to do, but certainly I think more training could be used. I mean, there are days when I'm just like, dang, I didn't even take that home ec class where I had to keep an egg for a week, and then they gave me a kid. Like,
well, I think it's also, I mean, this goes back to the greater philosophy I have in general. I just feel like we've gone so much to this individualistic society where people can be isolated in that way, where people don't really look out and do that. You okay, sis? Or, you know what, you need a break, I'll watch them for an hour. Even some of that type of informal support within just your community and friends could help resolve some of that issues where people can get some time to themselves and calm down and just kind of take a break and regroup.
yeah,
And we don't even have that just amongst ourselves, let alone the greater piece of education and formal institutional support.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, the village is vanishing.
Yes.
The village is vanishing, and sadly, I think that the village is, I've always been a person of color. I've always been black, never been white. I don't know how the village works in other cultures, but I definitely see. I'm just,
I'm sorry. That's funny. Go ahead.
however, I don't know if there is the same kind of notion and concept of the village outside of, what I grew up in, but I know that even amongst my colleagues and peers, that the more we come up, the less the village seems to exist,
Yes.
and maybe that's not such a good thing to happen or emulate, but certainly we all like to come up and do well, but it does seem that there's a parallel to move towards a more individualistic perception and kind of active lifestyle than it was when everybody just didn't have much. So,
Hmm.
just saying. One other thing that I wanted to mention that there was on the rehoming piece that in New York, a judge actually, and this was just in December of 2014, um, you know, a judge in New York banned a couple from looking to rehome their two internationally adopted children, and actually ruled it as kind of trafficking in children, and adding the kind of big T word, which certainly has been in a lot more news in recent years, is adds a whole nother dimension to it. And I really do think that it is really kind of a predator's playground in terms of thinking about rehoming. And I kind of agree with the judge when you read the article, and we'll post that as well from the Daily Beast, about this notion of kind of transferring kids illegally.
I had to go and look up some vocabulary for that, because I said, let me try to understand the point of view. And when I read trafficking, I think the point that sticks out to me is trafficking is for the purpose of exploitation, not just the movement of children around, and understanding. And I agree with what you say, is that rehoming is a predator's playground, but I don't
I don't think
necessarily feel like the intention is for
yeah.
exploitation. So maybe, if the point is because the risk is so high, um, and that the community that's involved in this, as far as the receiving of children, probably are more on the, as you said, nefarious side. I can understand that. It just
So yeah, the issue of intent is, and it kind of, for me, goes to these kind of linguistic pieces that we struggle with, and like the use of the N word among other, kind of banned words in society. And when someone says it, oh well, I didn't mean it, I didn't intend for you, but still the damage is done, and that as the parents of the kids, I think that the judges view was, well, you should have known, even if your intent was to kind of give the kids a different, opportunity to be placed and have a home, and for your home to kind of settle down. You should have known the risk associated with this, and the exceptional risk that these children were in. And so, intent, I get it, but it to me kind of falls along the lines of, you should have known. Even if your intentions were more noble, you should have known that the groups looking on Craigslist or whatever platform that you're using to advertise giving away some kids probably isn't
the best. Yes, I get it.
So
One of the things I was looking for, I did not find this, and I don't know if you did. I was looking for any adoptee voices on this. I wanted to see if any of the adoptee blogs or activists had spoke about rehoming and their thoughts on it, and I really just didn't find it. And there may be out there.
There was an article on NBC News. I'm hoping that it doesn't pull up a video that starts screaming at me. That I looked at in the NBC News story.
Oh, that's the one girl who gave her own personal story about being rehomed.
Yeah, and she was rehomed after reporting the father's alleged sex abuse, and so she talks a bit about that. But that was really kind of the only one that I found.
So I'd love to get some other thoughts on this from the community. If anybody wants to write us and let us know your thoughts, we'd love to hear it and incorporate that into the conversation. I think in general, as we close this out, we don't agree with rehoming. Neither one of us agree with rehoming. Both agree that we think it should be outlawed. Because we don't think it's in the best interest of children, and it's just not the right thing to do. It's just not. Yeah. But I want to add as a caveat that we need to really look. We need to see this as a challenge and a problem, and we as a society really need to be looking at what options can we give to people who need the support and are not having it. Either it's more communication about it, and I think a lot of it goes to um, acknowledging that this is an issue. It feels like one of these things that's just swept under the rug because it doesn't fit into the adoption narrative of I saved a child, I brought them home, I loved them, and everything turned out okay.
Yeah.
And when we start to acknowledge that it may not work out, you may have challenges that you just are not prepared with. We are not preparing people appropriately. It doesn't fit into that happy narrative, and we don't want to talk about it. But I think we need to, as long as we continue to have this idea of we're saving children, then we really need to think about how to save children.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, I would certainly also encourage our fellow bloggers to continue to write about our struggles,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that they're reassuring and validating, and it actually sheds light on the fact that sometimes this path, oftentimes this path is a challenging one and it's difficult, and that there's no shame in that, and that it's okay to have a community to say, wow, like we are just really scraping. And I was just, I'll confess this, that recently somebody was like, wow, Hope is doing so well, I wonder what changed. Gee, it's like magic. And so, but there is not this acknowledgement that it's been a really tough road for us and that we still have a long way to go. So our fellow bloggers that are writing about these things and are writing about the challenges and looking for support, keep writing, and let's continue to build a community, even if it is online, but we still need that village, to support each other and to shed light on the fact that we do need the support, and we need to be able to talk about it very openly and honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree.
alrighty, so we are at 10:25, and we got to talk a little bit about reality.
We do. We have to. So we're moving into the wind down segment. If you have not been a part of the ongoing Add Water and Stir movement, this is the part where we talk about Ratchet TV. Um, and I think if I'm on, because if you follow ABM and I on Twitter, we typically try to tweet. I didn't get to do it this time, being Mary Jane. Live tweeted. So, ABM, you want to start us off on we just watched the finale, and so
I have to watch it again, and I meant to do it today, but I was really, really busy. I've been telecommuting, and I just haven't had a chance to rewatch it. But what a hot mess! All of it is just messy, and I just, poor Mary Jane. I feel bad for her, even though I can't stand her, but I feel bad for her because I was like, you don't have one friend, not one.
Not a single friend.
Not one.
Not a single friend. Now you don't have a man either. So, so if you have been watching Being Mary Jane on the season finale, one of the things that happened is Mary Jane got to come up on her job. She was allowed to do a primetime segment, and during that primetime segment, she actually went kind of rogue. She went rogue on one of her guests, and it went viral, and she actually was rewarded for that with getting the spot. And so one of the things that it highlighted is that often, and I think they were trying to make the point that often we women are competing with each other for that few spots, and we are often used to be the demise of other women.
Yeah.
That was one of the things I got from that.
Yeah.
And I was like, obviously there's not enough room for two. So it was between Mary Jane and the previous primetime lady. So
yeah. And there can't be two. There has to be a winner in a battle. And so yeah, she came up, and we see her hanging out at her new boo Sheldon's house.
And Sheldon clearly is very OCD, even though Mary Jane is a little bit also. And if you see Sheldon's house, it's very clean. And did you see she asked him about her toothbrush toothbrush? Why did he throw her toothbrush away? She obviously had gotten into a relationship with this guy. He's very attractive, intellectual. He's older. He's 50 plus years old, but he looks really good. And she had been spending a lot of time with him and spend the night over his house, and she would get a toothbrush and leave it out, and apparently he would throw it away every time she spent the
Oh,
night.
but
And
wait. He gave her the toothbrush with the little towel set, and you could see that it was like, the hotel toothbrush that's like, comes in a
wrapped it,
plastic
yes.
wrapper. But he was kind enough the first time to take the wrapper off.
Okay.
So she didn't really catch the hint, but I was like, I tweeted, look at my timeline. He hit her with the disposable toothbrush.
Yes. And so she asked him, like, why did you throw my toothbrush away? He's like, what's the big deal? Get another one. And when she goes in the closet, first of all, his closet is amazingly, his linen closet. I was like, wow, do I need to do that for my guest linen closet? But anyway, he had this jar of disposable toothbrushes. So
Wrapper.
in wrappers, he's like, just get another toothbrush. And I was like, wow. I was in awe of the closet, first of all. So I have not too much to say about it. The point is, when she talked to him about, so if you want to watch the finale and don't want us to spoil, go ahead and just, yeah, click the X. We'll talk to you. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks. But anyway, so she asked him about it, and he says, well, I just like things the way I like it. And she's like, well, what are we doing? And basically he's like, I don't want to get married. I was just thinking you live at your house and I'll live in my house.
Oh, and if things really work out, we'll get condos next to each other, which is one of my secret fantasies.
When he was saying this, I was like, well, I mean, it doesn't really sound that bad because, when you get tired, you can just go to your own, place. But that's not what Mary Jane wants. But what I appreciated about the conversation was that I don't like the way she talks. I don't like the way she approaches issues. She always seems so angry about everything.
Yeah.
I guess it was appropriate to be angry, but just something about it just seems in comparison to his calm, it just seemed like you kind of seem out of the way angry.
I think
No?
this is one of the few times where I probably found her the most relatable
Yeah.
because she was having this moment of utter realization that this situation with this guy that seems to be all the things that maybe she might want is like they're not even they're not even in the same book, much less on the same page. And so there's a lot of emotion there, and the fact that he is like, oh no, I really just thought we buy condos next to each other. If this turned out to be a long-term thing, like probably just pissed her off even more. Like he's so calm, like he's not trying to fight for me.
But this is my thing though. What I'm not sure about is how much time has passed in this where they're doing this dance that they're doing. I'm like, it seemed to me like a couple weeks.
Yeah, it was really fast.
And so I'm like, at that point, why are y'all even having this conversation? Maybe you're spending the night over there too much. I don't know. It just felt either premature or not the right, something about it just didn't feel right in the context of where they were in their relationship.
It was all very odd because despite the fact that she was spending the night at his place. Clearly, he never spent the night at hers, but she was spending the night at his place.
And they still had not had sex.
They hadn't had sex. She did still pee in the bed. Whoa, but
Whoa. I
like whoa.
I don't understand what they were doing.
And so but she totally missed when one of her girlfriends called and she was like, yeah, I just got home, and you realize that they're at his place and he's like, home? Oh no, you don't live here.
I missed that too. I didn't see that.
Go back and see that. Because it was, like a couple of days before the fight, and she kicked off her shoes in the kitchen and walked out into like the little atrium patio area or whatever, and he's just sitting there like, she don't live here. Like,
oh yeah, that's the time when he showed up and he was like, how did you get in here? And she was like, oh, well, I saw your driver punch. Okay, so again, this is where Mary Jane slip shows. You saw the driver punch in the code to his gate. You didn't ask him if you could come to his house and use the code. You just assumed. So I think this. Now that I'm thinking back, I think this is kind of her fault. I feel like she assumed a lot of things, and he just kind of maybe didn't stop it because he was like,
Like,
okay, well, I'm okay with that, but I really
yeah,
maybe he was a little uncomfortable with it, but now that you have the code, okay. I feel like she just assumed that I can just walk in anytime I want
and
to and do.
well, but I mean, everybody in Atlanta seems to have the code to her gate, so people just be rolling up to the front door all the time.
Well, he's definitely seemed taken aback with that whole thing, and she was like, "Why is that a problem?" And when you're in a situation like that where you're not quite defined what you are, I think it's hard to say like I kind of do have a problem with you just walking into my house like this.
Yeah, I mean, she just rolled in and she was like, "Yeah, girl, I just got home," and he's like, "Oh no, you don't live here." So yeah, so if you are like me and need to rewatch shows a couple times just because you keep missing
I
things,
think I'm gonna have to do that now.
don't miss that scene because he's like, he does this double take, like what? And he goes and picks her shoes up off of the floor, and it's like she done just thrown stuff all over like my kitchen. Whoa, and he's having a moment of really big discomfort, and you know that that is the foreshadow to the beginning of the end. Like it's the beginning of the end.
So what happened? So I think she asked if they were in a relationship, and when he said yes, I still felt uncomfortable with the answer. It didn't feel like they were, obviously he felt like we are in a relationship, the kind that I think we're in, and the kind she thought they were in was something completely different.
Right.
And I feel like they're not good at helping us with the time, how much time has passed. So I don't know how long they've been hanging out like this. You
Yeah.
know, if
Yeah.
it's a couple weeks, then it's just too much.
Yeah.
But if it's 6 months, then maybe they're on track to have this conversation.
Well, I mean, time on this show has always been hard for me to follow because, okay, so first she had a midday talk show. So I kind of tried to figure out, I guess she must get off early, but don't you have post production or something? Like, I just don't understand how, like, you're baking a cake. We know that you bake cakes at midnight, but then, like, you're just going out to the club at, like, 3 a.m. Like, I just didn't figure it out. Like, yeah, I can go to dinner now. Like, and I'm like, where are they going and what time is so I couldn't even keep up with the like what is one day on the show. You have morning and night, but
Right.
timeline just seemed off. But then, weeks would go by because I mean Niecy was pregnant for like a whole season. Like I
Yeah,
mean
that's true. That's true.
so
So we don't know what's going
I
on.
don't know.
But I will say that I did have a Sheldon. I did have a Sheldon. I had an older guy, um, that I just thought was the bee's knees, man. And I mean, I just whew. And I do realize that when you have an older guy, especially at that, somebody that hasn't been, um, I don't know. I just felt like when I look back on that situation, he definitely had more experience in how to, I wouldn't say manipulate, but how to manage the situation to his,
Advantage.
yeah, to his advantage. And he was perfectly fine with the situation as it was. Like, we can date and hang out with like this forever, and I'll continue to do that with you and some other people at the same time. So, and and honestly, when I look back, I'm like, there's nothing really wrong with that.
Yeah.
It wasn't what I wanted. So I understood exactly where Mary Jane was coming from. I just felt like, wow, like you're so crazy with it though. So just so I
She
don't know.
she's
I just don't like her. That's what it really
crazy.
boils down
But
to.
I think in that moment, I found her to be the most relatable. And I also was surprised, frankly, that she didn't cave on what she really wanted when she finally said goodbye, because I just think she's a punk. So,
Yeah.
you know, so I was kind of happy about that. So then let's get to the last scene.
Lisa and David. So I think
Not
David.
one friend, not one friend. Not one.
Well, okay. Yeah, maybe.
I mean, Kara, I guess, is probably the closest thing she has to a friend, like kind
Yeah.
of, sort of. But Lisa is not it.
So, so again, this is spoilers,
Yeah.
but so Lisa and David were hanging out. David's dog died, and everybody has been, trying to comfort him. And Lisa is over at David's house, and she's cleaning up his house for him. Good for him. Apparently, he has such nice women friends to come over and do this for him. And they're having a conversation, and Lisa um kind of I don't think it was disclosed to me, but she really kind of maybe confronts him with the fact that she has feelings for him
Mhm.
and apparently, he when she tells him this, he acts like he doesn't know what she is talking about. He's like, "What are you talking about?" And he was like, "I know we apparently they slept together or did something one night."
There was some activity.
Yes. And Lisa clarifies, no, it wasn't just one time, it was multiple times, and apparently it was oral sex and maybe more than that. I don't really know. But I really had a problem with David's reaction here. David acted like he had no clue what she was talking about.
It's
And
like,
what
and
did you think? What did you think about his reaction?
uh, it was just like, was that me? I mean, I just kind of was flashing back to like a confrontation that I might have had with an ex who I found out was cheating on me, and they were like, it was like a Shaggy video, like it wasn't me. Like, I don't know what you're talking about.
He really was, but I really feel like that was inauthentic. I think he has to take responsibility for the fact that you have had some type of relationship with this woman. She's there doing whatever all the time. And then to act like you just have no clue that she has feelings for you is just really strange to me at this age. We're not like 20.
I was
These
gonna
people
say,
are like 40 years old. Why are they having these high school situations?
I was gonna
What?
say the same thing. Like these people are way too old to have these kind of problems. Like I just like way too old.
Yes. I'm like, what? So David butt dials Mary Jane, and Mary Jane hears everything that's happening on the phone, and she is in a state of shock.
And she's
Um,
driving.
would you say?
And she's driving.
She is driving. She's in a state of shock, and the season finale ends with Mary Jane driving through a light and ending up in an accident.
Yeah.
So I really have again, I have a problem with David's reaction to this, and I feel like this is something that I had to learn as my own. I used to have what I would call surrogate boyfriends. I even had a title for them. So these people that were not actually boyfriends but did boyfriend things.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they, that could range from, dating but not really dating you, but, to other things. And, but they were not my boyfriends. And I feel like at a time in my life, I had to realize like it is not okay to do this to people because they think that you're interested in them for more than that. And I feel like David is too old to be at a point where he has these surrogates and is acting like he has no idea that they could possibly have feelings for him or catch feelings for him more than what they show.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's got the girlfriend, the baby mama. He's got Lisa coming to clean up, and he's got Mary Jane still like got with her phone that she gives people code names like don't call him like don't call him like
I don't.
I'm
They're
like
they're
delete like I need you to learn how to use the delete key. But I mean, from his perspective, he's still got his little harem.
He does. And I feel like he reminds me of a guy that probably, and he even looks like it a little bit. Like maybe when he was younger, he was probably pretty geeky. Not maybe that. He
Hmm.
was probably always cute, but really not fixed up. cute. And then as he got older and more confident and everything, he started to become really sexy. And
Hmm.
now he has like all these women that are after him. And he just seems very immature in how to handle the
Hmm.
situation of all these people
Yeah.
that are around him.
Yeah.
Whatever, grow up, David.
Grow up, David. Grow up, and yeah.
But
Grow
what
up.
about Lisa? What do you think about her?
Well, I think that we'll have another visit from the EMT for her for next season, which will be the third attempt, I think, on the show of her trying to hurt herself when she finds out that Mary Jane has, like, gotten in a car crash because he butt dialed her and she overheard everything. Somehow she will make it about her again because all of these people are narcissistic. And, you know, um, I just can't imagine. I don't. I can't imagine you saying that this is your friend, and you're having a sexual relationship with her man. And I just, I didn't like her before. I didn't. I don't like any of these characters. Like none of them. I watched this show every
I
week.
don't understand these people. And I'm like, do I have people? I started taking an inventory. I started thinking, like, do I have people like this in my life? Because I need to start crossing people
I
off
mean,
the list if I do.
remind me never to move to Atlanta. Sorry, Atlanta people. I was like, good lord, like, oh my gosh. Like, I don't like not one of the characters on this show, and so, um,
What about Valerie? You don't like Valerie,
yeah,
the
I guess I can like Valerie, and I'm starting to like her older brother. What's his name?
Patrick?
Patrick. Yeah, Patrick seems like he's trying to get himself together. He's trying to get it together, but I'm starting to like him. But
So I think I wonder about Valerie because I'm thinking, why even hang around any of these people? You don't have to, right? Your husband is David's friend, right? The rest of these people are friends of David. So I don't have to be cool with any of you guys,
yeah,
right? So if my husband is not hanging out with David or you guys aren't hanging out with David anymore, then I don't have to be cool with y'all.
yeah,
I would not be cool with any of these women,
I
you
just
know?
they pop up at each other's houses, and I mean, I guess when you're friends, I guess, but I don't pop up at my friend's house. Like at this age, I just don't pop up like that. Like or at least if I'm in the neighborhood, I'm gonna call. I'm not gonna punch a code and just roll up to your friends.
Well, I don't mind the pop up. You can pop up at my house. We're not doing anything over at the house, okay? So you can pop up at my house, but
Maybe I'm losing
don't bring your drama over here. I don't think I really like
the drama,
I think my issue is I just don't like all that drama.
and I
And
think all of them are addicted to it. All of them are. They're all addicted to it. And actually, I think if you listened to Whiskey, Wine, and Moon's rehash of the mid-season, they did a recap of mid-season. I think that Lady Buddha read the Wikipedia page for
narcissistic personality
something
disorder.
like started breaking them down.
And she really believes that Mary Jane has this disorder. And I tend to agree with her because she does. Everything is about her. And it's just strange that I think her name is Mari Brock Akil
Yeah.
could write a character like this. And I'm like, do you know people like this? Maybe. I don't I
I
you
think
know
that
what? I take that back. I do know somebody a little like this,
I know
actually.
somebody like this. I do. But what is interesting to me is that she's not just writing one character like this. We focus on her because she's the titular character, but all of them are like this. Like, this is a whole cast full of
Yeah.
narcissistic
Yeah.
folk.
Well, I don't know if Lisa is narcissistic. For some reason, I have a little bit of a soft spot for Lisa. I don't know why. I do think that's kind of messed up that she's,
She's
uh,
messy. I will say she's messy, but the thing about it is David knows that she's messy and still messed with her. Like he knows that she's vulnerable and he still messed with her.
David is the messy one,
Yeah,
actually. Obviously, David is the one who actually wants to be in the middle of all of that. You can even tell by the fact that he got back with Mary Jane after all the crazy that she brought into his life and all the calling and all the, just
I'm a ride or die chick.
taking his sperm. What after that? Why would you have anything to do with that person? After somebody does that, that should just let you know. And it
Yeah,
feels like their relationship has been like that the whole time.
the whole time.
So
Anyway,
anyway, point is, don't be like Mary Jane. Don't
or
be
any
like
of her
Lisa.
friends, or any of her so-called friends.
If you do find yourself surrounded by people like that, you need to, probably take a look at yourself. You might be the Mary Jane of the group.
Right, so that's Being Mary Jane. That was the season finale. So we will be on the hunt for something new in the coming weeks, I guess.
I will still say I still recommend that you continue to watch Blackish
Oh,
because
yeah.
that show continues to get funnier and funnier if I do say so. I
Yes.
catch it on I tape it and catch it later. I
Yeah.
tape it. I'm old, man. I DVR it.
I watch it on Hulu. I also like Fresh Off the Boat. That's a really funny show. There's been some criticisms about it, but it's funny. And if you like 90s hip hop, like there's a lot of it on the show. So I kind of dig it. Um, I want to say Cypress Hill did the like it sounds like the theme from it is
Oh.
so which was a favorite of mine. So wrapping up, any recommendations for this week, Ms. Mimi?
Besides Blackish, no. Well, you know what? And we can talk about this on the next podcast. I have bought a couple of adoption books for Nana because she's 3 and we want to start introducing these concepts to her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it won't be such um, I don't want it to be like
Yeah.
a time where she remembers that we had this conversation. I want it to just kind of be a thing that she always knows.
Mm-hmm.
But man, these conversations are hard because she doesn't get what I'm talking about. So she goes around talking about a tummy mummy and heart and a heart mommy and all this kind of things. She's getting them all like confused and everything. And then she tells me that I'm adopted, and I'm like, what? So, maybe we can talk about this another day. So, I I recommend trying to talk to your child about this as early as possible, but do it in a better way than I'm obviously doing it.
She may just be trying things on in her mind and kind of seeing different reactions. So,
She
oh,
is because she continues to talk about it every day. Like she comes up with something else. Like we read these books and she, tries on something new. And so I think she's trying to figure this out. She knows she kind of knows it, but is still trying to figure out what exactly is mom talking about.
all right. I've got 2 recommendations. So months ago, Mimi got me hooked on all kinds of podcasts. So now I listen to a lot of podcasts, and and we listen to some of the same ones. I love Mom and Dad Are Fighting by Slate Magazine. Um, we were we did mention, Mimi and I were talking before the show that we need some people of color guest starring or visiting or dropping by or writing books or something on their show. But man, they are mad funny. And despite the fact that the 2 co-hosts have kids that are younger than Hope for me, certainly there are things that I find particularly useful and helpful and all that kind of stuff. And so that's a really good one. And then the other podcast that I just recently started listening to is my nerd podcast, and that is Way with Words. And it's about
Mm.
language, and it's about how language is evolving and developing. And basically, you've got these 2 linguists that kind of talk about where different phrases come from. People call in, and they're like, "Hey, here, I say this, but then I moved across the country," and people are like, what are you talking about? Like, and so they talk about kind of where certain phrases come from, the etymology of words, and it's kind of nerdy, but it's really cool. And I plan on subjecting Hope to numerous episodes of Way with Words on our next road trip, because I think that after the 3rd one, she might kind of like it. So that's what I got for this week. So where can we find you in the E Street?
Um, hmm. So you can find
Yeah,
me
wait,
at
she
on.
appears.
Okay, you don't have to tell all my business, but you can find me on Twitter at Mimi Complex, and you can read all the backstory on my blog at complicatedmelody.com. That's melody with an I, or you can email me at complicatedmelody with an I at gmail.com. What about you? Where can they find you?
You can find me on the blog. I write regularly. No shade.
I feel like that was a little shady, but okay.
No shade. I do write regularly. On adoptiveblackmom.com and Twitter by the same name, Adoptive Black Mom, the LK on Twitter, and Facebook as well. I post pretty frequently there too on Adoptive Black Mom on Facebook. So we will see you in 2 weeks.
So I just have to say that if you have to say no shade after a comment, then you actually mean shade. Okay, so
We
I
know
see the
that.
biases on. You got your glasses on, everything.
So we
Sunglasses.
know we know that Complicated Melody will write when she's good and well ready to write. So
I might just write this weekend just because you're talking about me. So,
hey, the back issues are great. So you got a great archive there. So and there's lots to be gleaned from the archive.
all
Right
right.
on my account. Anyway, we will see you all in 2 weeks. Thanks for joining us and visit us again on Add Water and Soap.
All right. Bye.